Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'm here to continue reading The Accidental Adventures of India McAllister, written by Charlotte Agell, who is a Maine author. This book is published by Henry Holt and Co, and we are going to pick up where we left off with Chapter 8, Bird Needs Flying Lessons. 2 weeks later, there is a disaster happening over at Dad and Richard's. It's about Bird. Bird is now called Beatrice Strawberry. It just came to me while I was walking home from school last week, and even Richard says it's the perfect name. She's a classic beauty, Richard says, who deserves a classic name. I figure the strawberry part is like a middle name, and it's because she goes bananas for berries. If it turns out that she's a boy, we forgot to ask, we can call her Benedict. Anyway, that's not the disaster. What's wrong is that the vet says Beatrice Strawberry is obese, as in very fat. We've been feeding her too much. She loves strawberries, and also Richard's crepes. Who doesn't? But she's not supposed to be as puffy as she is. We all thought it was just her feathers. The thing is, she's so cute and happy when she eats, it's tempting to give her treats all day long. There are other ways to show love, says my mother when I tell her. Anyway, my new weekend job is to exercise Beatrice. It's funny having to do that for a creature with wings. I take her out of the cage and she tilts her head at me. The first time she hopped over to my finger, I was surprised by her claws, but I'm used to them now. Here's a picture of Beatrice Strawberry thinking about bird treats. Here, chubby bird, I say, as I offer another finger to her. The trick is to make her take a walk from finger to finger, over and over. Here, chubby bird, Beatrice says back to me. She started to talk a lot. Richard says that's because she's happy. Dad says that's because she's a tape recorder, and it's a good thing she loves Ella Fitzgerald as much as he does. Tape recorders don't exist anymore, I tell him. Everything's digital now. But it's true. Beatrice Strawberry adores Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald sings about spring and love, and Beatrice whistles right along with her. It's really cute, but I guess singing alone in your cage is not enough exercise, so we have to do the finger walking thing. One morning, I decide that finger walking is not enough. I'm going to let Beatrice out to fly. Richard says that we might do that eventually when Bird feels at home, and I think she's ready. Anyway, Richard is away until supper time, and Dad's out in his garden since it's early June, and that is where he's to be found these days. It's not a big garden since this is condos, but everyone gets a few pots and planters to fill. What Dad wants are tomatoes. What I want is to exercise Beatrice, so I walk around the condo making sure there aren't any open windows. Okay, Beatrice Strawberry Bird, I say. I lift her gently out of the cage. It's time to fly. I hold her up on my finger. I give her a little shake. She simply sits there and looks at me funny. Beatrice can give the evil eye. I give her another shake. Shoo, I say. And all of a sudden, Bird flies off towards a window. Her wings flutter so frantically that there is actually a breeze, but she's not so good at flying. She smacks into the window with a loud thwump, falls to the floor, and lies there. Oh no, I let Bird kill herself. I race over, but Beatrice shakes her pretty self up and takes off towards the mantel. Up there she prances all over Richard's fancy blown glass pieces and then flutters crazily into the air. She's getting the hang of this flying business after all. I run around the room until I decide that she should come back and stop exercising. Sitting very quietly, I call her name. Beatrice! Beatrice Strawberry Bird! She calls back to me. Bird! Come here, I order her. Here, chubby bird, says Beatrice. But it doesn't mean she's done with flying. She goes off through the door into the kitchen. I follow, listening for her rustling. But I can't find her anywhere. Bird? I call. Beatrice Strawberry. No answer. Treats, I say. Pancakes, pancakes. No answer. Outside the window, I can see Dad fussing around with his tomato plant. I walk around the kitchen. It's crazy, but Bird is nowhere to be found. I decide to sit on a stool and wait. I sit there for quite a long time, at least 10 minutes. Finally, I swallow my pride and slip out into the little kitchen deck. I move fast so there's absolutely no way that Bird can follow me out into the world. Dad, I say, "Hi, honey," he answers, looking up at me. Dad looks very happy when he's gardening. I'm not sure he's going to look happy for long. For some reason, it's hard to confess. I don't mind it when Mom scolds me, but I don't see Dad often enough. There's no time for him to be mad at me. I just want him to love me. Is it time for lunch already? He's still smiling. Well, no, it's just that I let Beatrice out of her cage and now I can't find her. All of that comes out really fast before I can change my mind. Dad stands up and strides toward the house. Well, he says, but then he doesn't say anything else. He follows me in, sliding the door closed even faster than I did. Beatrice looks so bored, I said. She needed more exercise. Dad touches my shoulder. It's Richard's bird, sweetie. You should have talked with him before you let her out. For now, let's just find her before he comes back, shall we? Fine with me. But Dad can't find her either, even though I'm 95% sure that she has to be in the kitchen somewhere. We even look in the fridge. How many places could there be for a bird that big to hide? Finally, we sit down and have leftovers. It's Indian food, and I love Indian food, but I'm not exactly hungry. Guilt and worry fill up my belly instead. After lunch, I stay in the kitchen and read my book. It's about space-age pirates, but I can't concentrate. She's got to be somewhere, Dad says. He goes back outside. Later in the afternoon, I hear Richard's Alfa Romeo zipping into the driveway. I see Dad and Richard talking. Richard's nodding his head. I feel like running up to my room and hiding, but I sit there. Beatrice Bird's still missing. I'm sorry, I say to Richard. I thought she needed to fly. Richard nods. If I were a bird, he says, where would I hide? Richard is a very tall man, much taller than Dad. He lopes around the kitchen and stops in front of the fridge. On top of the fridge, pushed way back under the cabinet, there's a big wooden bowl. He lifts it down. My, he says, what do we have here? He hands the bowl to me. It's Beatrice. She sits in the bowl blinking as if she woke up. She probably just did. Big fat bird, she clucks to herself. She won't get out of the bowl until Richard pokes his finger at her. She climbs on and rides all the way back to the cage where he shuts the door. But the thing is that he doesn't scold me, and neither does Dad. Here's a picture of Beatrice in the bowl. Birds do need to fly, says Richard, who decides to let her out more. After that weekend, Beatrice Strawberry gets to roam the house, even when I'm not there. She has plenty of adventures. And the best thing is that she starts calling me at my mom's house. Well, usually Richard dials, or sometimes my dad, but then they put Beatrice right on. She's not a bad conversationalist, as long as you don't expect what she's going to say to make people sense. Hello, hello. Phone's for you, bird. How's the flying going? I ask her. Getting any better at it? Happy bird, says Beatrice. How's the diet going? Treats, and so on. When I visit Richard and my dad, they let me take her into the shower with me. Beatrice sits on my shoulder and sings in the bathtub rain. Despite all the practice she's getting, Beatrice is still clumsy at flying, but she rocks at hiding. Dad told me that the other day he couldn't find her. She wasn't in her favorite bowl. She wasn't moping around by the long windows. Richard couldn't find her either. Finally, they heard her cackling. She had wedged herself between two postcards on their bulletin board. How did she squeeze in there, and why? Fat bird is what Richard said she said, but Dad swears that she said flat bird. The best thing is when Dad and Richard go to Italy again next summer, I get to take Bird home to Mom's for 2 whole weeks. I'm already wondering what she'll think of Tofu and what Tofu will think of her. Here's a picture of Beatrice hiding in the postcards, and a picture of Tofu and Beatrice. Chapter 9. India McAllister's worst Wednesday ever. It started like any other day. Most worst days probably do. There were no poisonous snakes in my bed. There was no mold in my toast. There was peach juice for breakfast, and I love peach juice. It was almost summer vacation. I walked out the door to school with Tofu like I always do. It used to be Tofu Colby and me walking to school, since his house is on my way to Wolfgang Elementary School. Not anymore. There are some rules that are written down, like the Constitution of the United States, with its famous signers and their swirly signatures, and our recess rules. Recess rules. 1. Walk on the path. Let the baby grasses grow. 2. Do not go beyond the end of the gym or the yellow posts. 3. Ask permission to use the bathroom. 4. Include everyone. Play fair. 5. No chicken, no hanging on each other, no tackle football. We have different rules in the winter, but most people ignore them, especially Mikey. But some rules remain unwritten, like the one that says that Colby and I can't walk to school together anymore. It's not that he moved, it's just that we're in 4th grade. It's a pretty dumb rule, and it's all because of people like the rodent. Also people like Mikey Smith and Zach Horton, who are big and stupid and in 6th grade, and say things like, "Where's your little girlfriend, Colby? Where's China?" They call me that even though they know my name. I mostly ignore them, except for under my breath I am always muttering, "Where's your brain, idiot?" That wouldn't be safe to say out loud to those guys. But they don't get it. Colby is not my boyfriend. He's my friend. This is too hard to explain to people who don't listen anyway. It's easier to just not walk together. Colby usually takes his bike and plays football in the parking lot before school. He said he'd rather be walking with me, but it's complicated. So I walk to school with Tofu, the incredibly intelligent, as in more than some people I know. As Mom says, that dog truly has street smart. He does. He actually looks both ways. I'm glad he comes with me. He's a good listener. Tofu, I say. Remember the old days when Colby walked with us? Tofu looks at me and woofs. He likes Colby. Then he goes back to chasing squirrels. When Tofu goes somewhere, he's all about the side trips. I do sometimes wish that I walked with a person. Even though Amanda's house is on the next street over from mine, I'd rather die than walk with her. In fact, I'd rather do a lot of things than walk to school with Amanda Rodin. Here are some things I would rather do than walk with a rodent. Eat dirt, at least a little clean dirt, like organic. 2. Hang out with Colby's sisters for a day, and they are a lot of work. Celia's 8, but she thinks she's 14. Darby is 5, so that explains it. Monica is cute, but she wears diaper. 3. You name it. So I walk with Tofu and pretend that I don't care. This mostly involves keeping my chin way up and looking around like I have important things to see. Things that are much better noticed when you don't have anyone to talk to. Sometimes there are interesting things to notice, but mostly not. Oh wow, laundry. By the time that I get to Wolfgang Elementary, it's okay, because school is all about to start, and mostly I love school. I pat Tofu on the head and send him home. He usually goes directly home, says Mom, although he's taken some interesting detours over the years, including one involving skunks. Everyone's out on the playground. Mikey is chasing people around with lip gloss that he grabbed. "Give it back," yells Becca. "Ew, lip gloss," yell all the boys. I do not join in. Colby says hi by raising his eyebrow at me from across the parking lot, and then the bell rings, and he and I and everybody else walk into Mr. Argentoff's room. It's also the rodent's room. We only have one class for each grade in Wolfgang because we're a really small town. That's fine with me because, unlike some people, I'm not here to socialize, I'm here to learn. Since there's an infinite amount to learn, I'd better get started. Some stuff I want to know about are weird arachnids, black holes, do trees feel cold in the winter? How is it that yeast is alive? And what are crows saying? I can't help it if I'm smart. I like reading, I like thinking. So what if some people think that's dumb? The joke is on them. And I love Mr. Argentoff. Not like lovey-dovey love. He's the furthest thing from handsome that there is. But he's just cool. It's like each of us is Mr. Argentoff's favorite in our own way because he understands everybody. Some examples. Mitch almost never talks, but when he does, he's smart. He knows that Nick always has to doodle. I, India, love reading. Louis can usually find salamanders in the spring. Amy has a special relationship with Alice, our fish. Colby likes science, especially space. And believe it or not, he even likes the rodent and lets her run practically all the errands to the office, which is very charitable of him. Or maybe he needs a break from her, too. All of her classmates that she was talking about. Today we started the day by talking about what we would do with all the money that we raised this year selling wrapping paper and magazines. Some of it is for a class trip to Boston. We're going to walk the Freedom Trail and go to a museum. I might even get to take the subway. I hope so. There is not a single subway in the whole state of Maine. But there's going to be leftover money, maybe because my neighbor, Mrs. O, bought 5 magazine subscriptions. She loves to read, and sometimes she doesn't feel well enough to make it all the way to the library. We say our ideas, and Mr. Argentoth writes them on the board. Some of the ideas are good. Polar bear funds, football uniforms, ice cream party, field trip in limos, books. And some of them are just plain selfish, and a few are good, even if they are selfish. We're all laughing and talking about our options when I notice something. Amanda is passing a note. There's nothing all that unusual about it, except for that she's passing it to Colby. Colby unfolds the paper very slowly under his desk. I can see since my desk is now at the back of the room, probably because Mr. Argentoth can count on me to pay attention no matter what. I'm definitely paying attention to this. I watch Colby read the note. His mouth moves the way it does when he reads silently, like he's reading silently aloud. Then he blushes. I watch the red creep up his neck all the way to his ears. They're so bright red that I feel like rushing over with a fire extinguisher. Then, while the rest of us keep talking about endangered species and possible pizza parties, I watch Colby tear the piece of paper from his blue binder. It's his math binder. I know because sometimes he comes over to my house to do homework. He chews a pencil. He's thinking great, big, embarrassing thoughts. His ears are still on fire along with the rest of him. He folds up the note and passes it to Joey, who passes it to Melanie, who passes it to the rodent. She reads it, and then she turns right around to look at that. And not only that, she's hugging the note to her chest and simpering. Simpering, a silly smile and smirk, like giggling but with no noise, and worse. I stare at my desk so hard that it practically cringes. I do not want to see this. Why would they be writing to each other? I try to think of some normal reasons. Reasons with footnotes, like in research paper. Amanda is going to babysit Colby's little sisters. Diapers, gross. No, she's not old enough or nice enough. Amanda asks Colby a math problem. Why would she ask him? Amanda is trying to make some other guy jealous. Maybe. Then I give up fooling myself and sit straight in my chair. I will just ignore this little problem. It seems to work. The rest of the day is normal. Colby sits at my table at lunch. I'm at the girl end and he's at the guy end. Amanda does not sit with us, since Riley does, and Amanda thinks that Riley smells. He does, but at least he's nice. Still, the whole day I'm full of suspicion that something else will happen. And it does. After school, Amanda goes straight up to Colby. I watch as they leave alone. Together, talking. I almost barge right in, but it's like there's an invisible force field around them. Melanie comes over to me and flings her hair around. I think you might like her, right? I don't know what to say to that, so I just try to bravely smile. But it's possible that my face looks like I ate rat poison. To top it all off, when I get home, Mom's not there and neither is Tofu. There's a note saying not to worry and that she took him to the vet to have a thorn taken out of his paw. Poor Tofu. My baby is in pain. Poor me. My best friend is a nincompoop. This is my worst Wednesday ever. Chapter 10. The War of the Slippers and the Socks. After my worst Wednesday at school, things get a little better. It's not only because it's almost the weekend and soon I won't have to look at the rodent making fluttery moon eyes at Colby and him blushing his head off. It's because Dad has to go to a medical conference in Cleveland and Richard is going too. They wonder if Beatrice might be able to stay with me. It's not as far away as Italy, but they will be gone for 5 days, and it sure beats waiting until next summer for her to meet Tofu. We could have one of the neighbors to pop in to feed her, says Dad on the phone, but we think she might be too lonely. She might even pick at our feathers, says Richard, who is on the extension. He sounds worried. He doesn't need to convince me. I love Beatrice too, bad habits and all. Her bad habits include vanity, gluttony, excessive hiding, not to mention occasional destruction. Let's see, she says, there she is hiding. She's saying, pretty, pretty bird. And it says, this is empty. Yes, I yell without even checking with Mom. Then I talk to Beatrice on the phone for a while. I know Richard is holding the phone up to her beak, and that's very nice of him. Sweet bird, says Beatrice. She has a very good self-image. I hold the phone up to Tofu's ear. He cocks his ear, but he isn't very conversational. He's more interested in my slipper. Tofu thinks it's his mortal enemy and that he has to chew it to pieces. Give me that, I say. Bird would never eat my slippers, silly dog. Slippers I have loved and lost, a sampling. Tofu 15, slippers 0. Mom says it's fine for Bird to visit us, and so it's settled. Friday can't come soon enough for me. I make it through Thursday by keeping my nose in my book, even at recess. I sit on the bench dedicated to Mrs. Satchwick, the teacher who died before I was born. I trace all the letters of her name with my little finger. The stone is cold to sit on, but my book is great. It's about warrior mice, the kind of rodents that I can stand. Friday is the day Beatrice Strawberry Bird is coming, so who cares if Amanda is still on her Colby campaign? Besides, I win the class spelling bee, like I always do, by spelling the word hypocrite. Amanda doesn't even know what that means. It's an animal, right? It's not an animal. I think they really are in love, says Melanie hotly in my ear when we leave for the weekend. You know, Colby and Amanda. It's exactly the sort of news that she lives to tell, the sort of news that is happening right in front of your eyes, and you would have to be a moron not to notice it. Joey just vomited. I know she is waiting for me to respond, but I just shrug and keep stuffing books into my backpack. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my former best friend and the stupid giggling rodent, but I choose not to think about it. Bird is coming, I tell myself, not even looking at Melanie. Who cares about Colby? But it does hurt because I've been planning for him to meet Beatrice, and now obviously I can't. He's a traitor. In my mind, I make Colby walk the plank, but I don't make him jump. Beatrice is there when I get home. Your father and Richard had to catch a plane, says Mom. Bird's in the dining room. I must say she's beautiful. I agree, and so does Bird. She's singing her Pretty Bird song. The sun streams in and the walls are blue. Being in our dining room is a bit like being outside, and I think Bird's gone happily hyper. No offense to Richard and Dad, but their condo's kind of dark. I'm so thrilled to have her here that I almost call Colby, and then I can't remember that I can't. Pirate me. I might make him jump. Fortunately, I'm very busy with Bird. I'm so busy that I accidentally ignored Tofu. He doesn't like being ignored unless he's doing something really bad. Maybe that's why he's eating my best blue slipper, the one with the bunny ears. Or, I should say, the one that used to have bunny ears. So me ignoring him will work in his favor. He's not merely chewing, he's swallowing. No, Tofu, I yell at him. Bad dog. He skulks away under the dining room table, and I immediately feel rotten. He's just jealous. I know that feeling. Come here, baby dog, I say in my cuddliest voice. I love you so much. Tofu crawls out from under the table and puts his head in my lap. You're my best boy, I tell him, and I'm glad that Bird is probably a girl. Then I get this idea. I close up the dining room and I let Beatrice out. Why not? Where could she go? Maybe she'd like to say hello to Tofu from out behind her bars. That's the problem with birds and little animals. You have to be the jailer. Besides, she's used to some freedom at Dad and Richard's. Okay, I say to Bird, offering her my finger. Time to play. She hops right on and starts preening herself, but I can tell that she's eyeing Tofu. He's eyeing her too. I can almost feel their vision rays. It goes on for minutes. Then all of a sudden she makes her move. With full landing gear out, Bird swoops down and onto Tofu's back. He jolts in surprise and his eyes open wider than the first time he ate Tofu. It's okay, boy, I tell him. That's your new friend, Bird. Tofu makes the tiniest whimper and twists around his head. I'm surprised that I'm not nervous. He could easily bite her, but then again she could easily rise up in the air and escape or peck his nose to pieces with her beak of steel. But exactly what I hope will happen, happens, and it's so cool. Within a minute, Beatrice is riding around on Tofu's back, just like I pictured. After a good long tour of the dining room, Tofu plops down and refuses to get up. Beatrice shrieks strawberries for some reason and flies down under the table where Tofu has left my poor bunny slipper. Oh no, that's Tofu's personal, private enemy. What will happen next? But Beatrice gives my earless slipper a peck and then flies around the room. Since we don't use our dining room really to actually eat in, it's too big for just us. There's a pile of laundry on the table waiting to be folded. Bird dives into the basket and comes up with my polka dot sock. She gives it a good shake and flings it on the floor. Tofu pounces and growls at the sock, and Beatrice Bird hops back to my finger. Then Tofu goes wild dog crazy and runs back under the table to get the slipper. Bird flies back down to the sock and cackles with glee. They're totally vanquishing their foes. I'm glad somebody can, I guess. Come here, baby dog, says Bird, because she heard me say it once and she's that smart. Tofu looks up from his dead slipper all confused. Okay, you guys, time out. Even though my slipper is wrecked and my sock is pecked, I want to feel like the victor. To the victor belong the spoils, plus they're mine anyway. I can smell Mom's lasagna cooking, and it's a special occasion when Mom cooks, that's for sure. Tonight, we eat in the dining room with the unfolded laundry next to us, Tofu under the table, and delightful Bird back in her cage. What do you say to a little La Trovita? Mom asks. She likes to play loud opera when we eat home-cooked meal to make it even more special. Sure, I say, feeling generous since I get to have Bird here. Opera's not my favorite music. I think it's strictly for grown-ups. Turns out that opera makes Bird twitchy, too. It's like she wants to sing along, but she hasn't quite gotten the words down, so she throws a hissy fit, but it's hilarious. Beatrice, the prima donna, singing to a salt shaker. Mom and I spend the evening playing checkers, folding laundry, and watching Bird the prima donna and Tofu the valiant slipper warrior. I hardly miss Colby at all. That's the end of where we're going to read to today. Tomorrow we will finish the book, starting with chapter 11, India McAllister is officially an idiot. Wonder what that's all about. Thanks for listening. Once again, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. We've been reading The Accidental Adventures of India McAllister by Charlotte Agell, published by Henry Holt and Co. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.